part of the reason why I did it was because I never thought that I was going to be sober. Never.
Yeah.
I swore that even if I quit drugs, I'd never quit drinking. I thought that was my identity itself too. So now that I've been sober for 2 years, it especially hurts.
Let's be honest about recovery.
The rewards, the challenges.
Let's talk about our failures. We are flawed people, after all.
Let's challenge the stigmas that weigh us down.
Because while most of us are looked at, few of us are seen.
Let's talk about addiction.
And how Christ overcomes our weaknesses.
Because we are loved.
Because we are loved.
Because we are loved.
We are loved.
We are
because
loved.
we are loved.
Hi, my name is Amber. The first years of my life were riddled with trauma and chaos due to my biological parents being in active addiction. At the age of 6, I was blessed with the opportunity of living with a stable family who decided to adopt me when I was 12. But that's not where my troubles ended. After 25 years or so of active addiction, toxic relationships, self-harm, and everything bad, I found myself in jail again. After the age of 38, I found myself on my knees praising the Lord after a mighty revelation of Him there. I've never been the same since. This is my story.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Jesus Loves Addicts. We're glad you're here, and buckle up because you're about to engage in part 2. So you step away from school.
But I was, I was 18, and I was working at a restaurant. I was a bartender. It was great. Yeah, wonderful profession for me. This is after I got fired from the movie theater.
Yeah.
So, but I was a bartender. I started out as a waitress and a hostess and whatnot, but I got moved up to bartender when I was 18. And some of my regulars there, they thought I was great. So, the lady, they're a little bit older couple, she told me that she was retiring from working at a dental clinic. And I was like, well, that's cool. All right. And she's like, I think you'd be great working there. I want to talk to my doctor and bring you in. I'm like, whatever, great, So I went and met with the doctor, and they did. They hired me straight off the street. No experience, no knowledge, nothing. They decided they were going to train me, and I started working in the dental professional, or as a dental professional. And that's about the time I was still going to basic, I was doing your basic associate classes and such. Yeah, but then, I started working there for a little while. I started getting real bad into cocaine. I was working there in the mornings, and then I was going to I worked at a strip club and at night cocktail waitressing, and I also worked at another steakhouse. So I'd alternate between the jobs. And then that's kind of when school got a little rough because it was hard maintaining 3 jobs and then school. So I kind of decided school was going to go by the wayside because I wanted to, have my money for the things I wanted to have my money for. Yeah. So,
priorities.
And you were probably making quite a bit. Would that be fair to say?
I was doing okay. Yeah. I mean,
Did you have anything to show for it?
Oh yeah. Well, I bought a new car. I had a nice apartment.
Okay. And you were able to maintain those things?
Constantly shopping and then a lot of drug use. So I was doing a lot of cocaine and drinking at this point.
Okay.
And I was the type too, again, remember, my identity basically came from pleasing others and having them happy with me, whatever I could do to make them happy. So since I was doing so well, I had a lot of those people that knew and I would like to party. So I'd go out to the bar and I'd be like, all right, let's buy everybody shots. And it was not uncommon for me to leave the bar with a tab of $100+ every night. Because everybody, was like, okay, Amber's going out, let's go out. Like they already kind of knew what was involved with that.
But at this point, I don't know if ever it wasn't causing, you weren't, like I hear so many stories where people are making a lot of money, but they're living in their car in a parking lot because it's just all going to nothing, right?
No.
So you were able to, keep it.
I'd had an apartment for a while, and then I moved into a friend's house. I rented a room and whatnot, but I did okay at the point. So I didn't experience homelessness for years later. So that's for a few years later. So, and then my cocaine habit got pretty bad. So I ended up having to leave the dental office. They were in the process of selling it. The doctor I worked for was retiring and selling it to another set of doctors. And I knew that they weren't going to hire me. So I was kind of falling by the wayside. So it's about the same time I was like quitting school. I was quitting that job, going back to hospitality full time as best I could, bouncing through relationships, relationship after relationship, trying to find any love there.
But not knowing what that looks like, right? That's where we confuse the promiscuity with love.
Yeah.
And then,
Oh my gosh, so much. So bad.
Yeah.
So bad. And then I got to the point where, because I was very much so the victim mentality.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was an addiction in itself for me. So everybody else around me was the problem. You know, it wasn't me. I was the one paying for everybody. I had the house, I had the car, you know, I had my life together, right?
Yeah.
Never mind, I had a drug and drinking problem,
Right.
but that didn't seem like it was a problem to me because I could maintain. I still had a normal life outside of that. So then I got into a relationship. And at this point too, I'd actually started dating women as well. So I was bouncing back and forth, you know, just because if men aren't good enough, then maybe women are. Well, this woman was crazy. So let me.
Yeah, all kinds of identities.
That's what I was fixing to say.
Yeah.
It just goes back to no real sense of self. That's
Exactly. So I'd met a guy that I just I thought he was the coolest thing since sliced bread. You know, I was absolutely infatuated with him. Turns out we weren't good together. Go figure. So, but I got pregnant, and we were doing a lot of drugs. He was selling dope on the side, and I didn't find out I was pregnant until probably about 8 weeks in-ish, because I was partying so much. I wasn't paying attention to much else. I just realized there was a couple things going on in my body that were a little different, and so I took a test. I took like 100 tests, I think, and I found out I was pregnant. And he was okay. So what are we gonna do? He was 10 years older than me. So I'm like 19 at this point, 19, 20. He's like, what are we gonna do about it? And I was like, I don't know. What are we gonna do about it? And he's like, well, you decide. What do you want? He's like, I support you no matter what. And I struggled. I struggled bad with this one. And he'd already had a daughter from another relationship that they didn't see much of each other, and I kind of took that into consideration. But I really thought about how I'd just been using and drinking so much for the start of this pregnancy, and I had the biggest fear of damaging the baby. That's just having a baby that I hurt already before the baby's even here, and I'd already hurt this child. Is what my biggest fear was. So I thought about it a lot. I quit everything. I did. I quit until I was sure what I was going to do. I'd quit drinking. I quit everything for a couple weeks. And I decided that I was going to have an abortion. We went to one appointment, and I missed it. Something happened. I forget. I don't even remember. After I made the decision, I started drinking and stuff again, of course. And I think we missed it because I don't know, it's late because we're doing something recreational, I'm sure. And then, so we went to the second appointment we made, and they basically told me, at this point, I'm 12 weeks. And they told me that if I didn't do it then, I couldn't do it. So I was like, oh my gosh, okay. So they give you this questionnaire while you're in the office. And it's all the questions about, are you sure you made the right decision? Like, and I wrote no. I circled no, I'm not sure, because I was still conflicted. I was still not sure at all of anything at all in life, really, especially this. And they interview you. A nurse interviews you. They give you a oral sedative, and they interview you. And she said, "You circled no on this question. I can't. The doctor won't see you if you don't. You know, if you have no here." And so I explained to her a little bit of my childhood, my history, whatnot. Like, if I ever have a child, I want to make sure that I can support the child, because I don't want to have the child suffer like I did. You know, if I'm going to be a mom, you know, and I can't even take care of myself right now. So this is going to be in the best interest of the child, I thought. And she goes, "You're awfully lucid, you know." And I was like, "Well, I do a lot of drugs regularly, so, you know, your one little pill doesn't surprise me. It doesn't do much." So she gave me another one. She said, "Please don't tell anybody I did that." Oops, sorry. And then, so I don't remember much after that, besides, I do remember a little bit of the procedure. I remember the feeling of it. And there was just like this semicircle of lazy boys, basically, and just girls. And then he's like hopping, like boom, boom, boom. Like, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So, you know, they take you back and you come back, and then, you know, then you get your cup of goldfish. And I I still kind of remember the feeling of it. And it was not very fun. So we're leaving. There's people picketing outside.
Let me pause you.
Yeah.
Because I get that the medical procedure itself was not very fun.
Right.
But my guess is the tears that are welling up have nothing to do with the medical procedure. Can you talk a little bit about how you feel about that now? I think it's an important growth.
Now that I am sober, it breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Especially right now. Because part of the reason why I did it was because I never thought that I was going to be sober. Never.
Yeah.
I swore that even if I quit drugs, I'd never quit drinking. I thought that was my identity itself too. So now that I've been sober for 2 years, it especially hurts.
Yeah.
It especially hurts now.
But can I ask, just even if let's say you were right about that you were never going to be sober, would you have felt better about having done that now in retrospect, where you are in your faith?
I'm not sure. I mean, I probably still would have hurt me, but considering the fact that I have come along in faith, but I mean, I imagine it would. I can't say 100% how different it would be because it's not, I'm not that, it's not that instant. So, I'm not, I would imagine, yes, it would still absolutely break my heart. Yeah. I mean, it still broke my heart even then.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Right.
It was still like afterward, I went into deep depression.
Yeah.
Him and the guy and I ended up breaking up. We had this huge fight. It was awful. And I ended up having to bounce couches and stuff like that for a little while after that. I ended up in the hospital actually afterward too. So, cause I was bleeding profusely and somebody once said, I don't know if this is the correct terminology or whatnot, but somebody said it was a botched abortion. So, but I did end up in the hospital afterward. And my mom and I were estranged at this point a little bit because of the relationship I was in. She did not support it. She knew it was bad. So she had to distance herself to put up her boundaries. And she actually ended up coming to the hospital to see me there. It was the first time I'd seen her for a while. And I never told her what happened, but she knew. Yeah. I hadn't told her at that point what had happened, but she knew. We've talked since. She knows now what had happened. But
thank God we serve a good God, right? That can love us through our worst mistakes, because it breaks his heart too.
Right.
And it broke your heart, and he's loved you through it, and he's gotten you to a different place. So
absolutely.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so from there, so right there was him and I did the back and forth thing after that. So at this point, so this is going to kind of put us into another difficult story here. Him and I going back and forth, like I said, it put a wedge on my relationship with my parents because they did not support it at all. And this is when we were still living in Melbourne, Florida, him and I together. So we bounced back and forth together after the abortion, whatever.
Was it the drugs and alcohol they didn't support, or was it a violent relationship? Like, what about it was they adamantly, okay, that's
all of it. So, I didn't tell them much about cause I was violent, you know what I mean? It wasn't like I was just being beaten or anything. Like I ran him over. Like I did all kinds of things. I was terrible. I was an awful girlfriend.
With a car?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I ran him over. I swung on him so many times. I threw things at him constantly. I mean,
y'all were
he
toxic
me.
for each other.
Yeah. He didn't beat me. Like he'd try to like stop, you know what I mean? Like one of those. He never
tried to restrain you.
Right. So I was the more violent one. So, but I didn't play into that while I was in the relationship. While I was in the relationship, it was all him. It was his fault. You know what I mean? I ran him over because of what he did.
I'm a victim.
Yeah. I had to run him over because he was trying to get in my car and I didn't want him in it. So, or
made sense.
Yeah. I swung on him because he came too close to me. I didn't want him in my bubble or whatever, just all the things.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when he would try to, hey, stop, you know what I mean? Oh, my gosh, you touched me. And then a whole another animal came out of that. So it was ugly, very ugly. And at one point, we got back together again, and he convinced me to move to Miami. And that's about 3 hours-ish south of where I was living. Sold my car, quit my job, got rid of my phone, and got on his plan. Like the whole, you can kind of see where this is going.
Yeah.
You know, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it my way, right? And I followed through because I was infatuated with him, even with all the rough stuff. We moved down to Miami. We moved in with his parents, and they spoke Spanish only. I didn't speak any Spanish, so it was a little difficult for me down there. A little hard for me to get enmeshed.
So now you're isolated.
Yes, yeah, I was isolated, and so things were tough. And again, the chaos just followed us there, and pursued, and to where one day, while we were down there, we went to an NFL draft radio listening party or whatnot. We're in the park, and something had to happen, set me off. I was drinking, of course. Someone set me off, and I threw a fit in the middle of this park. And he got me in the car, and I'm kicking the car, I'm just beating the car up, whatever. And there was some drugs, and I'd grabbed some drugs, and I shoved them in my pants, and I took off running. And in the park, it's like a little bit of woods and stuff like that, but there was a pool area that was closed down. And I jumped the fence of the pool, and I hid by the bathroom, and I slit my wrists. And I was sitting there bleeding, just crying, bleeding profusely. Well, the medics found me, and they arrested me. So I went to the hospital. They had me handcuffed to the bed while they stitched me up and everything.
Do you think that was a real attempt, or do you think that's part of the cry for help?
I think that was the cry for help more than anything. Because I remember, you can actually see where the scars are, and you can see they're here instead of actually where the veins. They come over near the veins. Right. They're over a little bit, but it's I looking back now, being honest, I really think it was more for attention. Okay. It really was. It was a cry for help because I definitely needed some help. Mm-hmm. So I'm in the hospital. I'm crying, trying to call him. Of course, I ended up getting Baker acted and had to go psych ward for 72 hours and trying to figure out how I'm going to get home. I get put on a Greyhound bus, and I'd had the drugs with me. So I'm on the Greyhound bus, snorting cocaine, and heading back home to my mom. And I get back there. I don't have anything because he has all my stuff, down in Miami still. It's it's a 3-hour drive normally, but I think it's like a 7 or 8 hour bus ride. And I get back there, and she welcomes me in open arms. Of course, she's my mom. It's like the prodigal daughter, return. She did the whole embrace. And I remember she took me outside with a stack of porcelain plates, and she's throwing them down, just getting rid of them, just tossing them down, trying to get the anger out. Just break all the plates and such. So just started to help me feel better about it. And then I stayed there for a little while, but I went back with him. Again. And I had to do it again. So I had to come back on a bus again. And but the in between here is one of the times when I was back with him, my adopted father had committed suicide. And so at this point, the guy and I had actually had a break in our relationship, and I'd gone home. My adopted mom left my adopted dad. It was July 4th weekend, actually, and he was very distraught. Him and I, throughout my whole childhood, he was the disciplinarian. You know what I mean? He was a good, very supportive father in the sense of financially structured, all that. But he was raised or born Great Depression type. Did not very loving parents, so he didn't know how to love. It was kind of weird. He wasn't very good with expressiveness like that. He was good at, hey, you're in trouble, I'm gonna whoop you now or something. But he wasn't very good with loving thing. Well, after my mom had left, I moved back in with him on one of mine and the guy's breaks, and we bonded. We bonded really, really well. So my mom left him July 4th weekend. My birthday is July 22nd. My mom was always the one that bought the Christmas presents, the birthday presents, all that stuff, and just said, put mom and dad. So whenever I opened them, my dad figured out what we were getting too, right? But here comes my birthday, July 22nd, after my mom left him, and he bought me something. He went out and he bought me something. And I was like, oh my gosh, like he's a new man, right? It was a whole thing. And then my adoption anniversary, the day they adopted me, is August 18th. And we always say I have 2 birthdays now. So I have my biological birthday and then I have my adoption anniversary. So we celebrate 2 birthdays every year. And he bought me something else. And I got to see the man cry because he was upset about my mom. He bought her flowers. You know, he was trying to be a new man. He was talking to somebody about help. He was seeing a therapist, and this is not the man that would normally do that. He was a rough and tough early biker guy, you know what I mean? Harley mechanic, and he comes home, dinner's on the table, certain time, get my beer, you know, like, you know, kids, you better behave, you know, you talk to, or you only speak when you're spoken to, you know, like kind of old fashioned, right? So we kind of bonded in that like couple little time period there, and then he committed suicide on August 31st. So I had about 2 months. We would get up for work. I was working at a diner and he was working at his shop, and we'd get up for breakfast together every day. And, you know, hey, how are you? Good morning, breakfast, whatever. And we'd go our separate ways. Well, this morning, he wasn't out, but I saw the dog was out of the room. And so I was like, okay, so he's awake. Yeah. You know, all right, I'll leave him alone. Maybe he's having a rough day. And I go to work at the diner, and, as we're closing the diner, we close early because it was a breakfast diner. You know, they closed at like 2. I noticed they were like trying to like almost hold me back from leaving. I'm like, you know, what's like, they're like, oh, Amber, wait, can you do this? Or, you know, and finally I'm outside and my mom pulls up with a guy, a family friend. And I'm like, what? This is weird, you know? She's telling me to sit down, and she said that you can't go home because he's, your dad's he's not there. And I didn't know how to take it at first. I didn't believe her. I thought it was a really bad joke. I was like, why would she say something like that? That's awful. That's terrible. Why would she do that? So that put a whole strain there too, but he did.
Oh, you don't want to believe it, right?
Yeah, I didn't. Of course not. Yeah, I didn't. Because here I was, you know, finally, after, you know, I was 21 at this point. After so many years of life, I felt like I'd had a dad.
Yeah.
I'd finally had a dad. And, sorry.
You're okay.
So we dealt with that. I was trying to get back with the relationship. That was really bad, especially then, because I needed comfort then. I was a mess. I needed comfort bad. So I was trying everything to get back with him. So we did a couple times. We did the whole broken thing. Well, eventually, my mom moves back in the house, and I'm there. I see this ad about a dental program. And I felt like I needed to do something in my life because I was lost. I was absolutely lost. I wasn't doing anything. I was just a mess.
I'd like to take a moment to recognize a major podcast sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by America's Thrift Stores, your go-to option for decluttering and giving back. If you have a closet bursting at the seams or a garage that's seen better days, we've got the perfect solution for you.
That's right. America's Thrift Stores makes it easy to clear out the clutter and make a positive impact in your community. Whether you're cleaning out your wardrobe, downsizing your living space, or just looking to give back, America's Thrift Stores has you covered.
And here's the best part. You've got options. Schedule a hassle-free home pickup, drop off your items at one of their convenient donation sites, or swing by an America's Thrift Store to donate in person. No matter which way you choose, you're making a difference.
Absolutely. Every donation you make to America's Thrift Stores directly benefits charities in your area, such as the Home of Grace and other fantastic organizations dedicated to helping those in need.
For example, donations made to America's Thrift Stores in southern Mississippi help the Home of Grace provide support and assistance to individuals facing drug and alcohol addiction. Your contributions make a real impact on their mission to provide freedom from addiction through Christ-centered recovery. So not only are you decluttering your life, but you're also helping build a stronger and more supportive community.
It's truly a double blessing. So what are you waiting for? Clean out that closet, clear out that garage, and make a positive difference in your community by donating to America's Thrift Stores.
Visit America's Thrift Stores online to schedule a home pickup, locate a donation site near you, or get directions to one of their store locations.
America's Thrift Stores, where giving back never goes out of style.
And so I signed up for this dental program. My mom paid for it to let me go. And I did really well. I did really, really well. And I got back into the dental field. I ended up working at a prosthodontist office. I ended up being there for 7 or 8 years after that. And that's where I started really making money. And I progressed into doing well for a little while. And then from there, I did so many years of ups and downs of just doing really well, like killing it. Mind you, I was still drinking and drugging a lot, and a lot of terrible relationships. And that was the thing about the relationships. I'd get into one and I'd start to spiral. I'd spiral real bad after a breakup. And that's when the depression would kick in. I'd start doing a lot more drugs, and I didn't care. I just kind of like threw my hands up and just not even caring anymore. So I went through years of that. And I went to jail a couple times. I got arrested a couple times for some violent charges.
Was it domestic violence?
Yes. Yeah. So there was disorderly intoxication. There was domestic violence. There was, I actually got a felony for fighting with a girl, apparently. At one point they tried to hit me with attempted murder or something like that, like for fighting. It was rough couple years.
Was it attempted murder?
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't think so. I don't know. I was pretty lit. I don't know.
That's not real convincing.
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure it wasn't. But I mean, I don't know. It was a pretty good fight, I guess so. And yeah, so I was still working really hard. I was still doing the dental thing in the morning. Like I worked, like I said, I worked at Dr. Career's office for probably 7 or 8 years or so. But the whole time I was still drinking and doing drugs. Like I would go to work high. Like
no one ever asked you anything.
The funny thing, what surprises the heck out of me is no, especially I worked with a doctor and I worked with educated people.
If they don't see it, if they're not looking. Yeah. I didn't know, did you miss work? Were you late?
Yeah, absolutely. I missed work. So, and I'm not sure, I don't know if it got to the point where, because it was a small private practice. And so I'm not sure if it was just because I'd established myself as a good employee, when I was there or whatnot. But,
and I would imagine you're charming, right? Because you're a chameleon.
Oh yeah. I mean,
right?
yeah,
so you
absolutely.
Can be, And so it's, you don't want to let people, and we see what we want to see. Like Catherine was saying, education doesn't open our eyes, right? And that's
yeah. And I was, like I said, again, I was also very hardworking. Like I would, so I started in one position, but I ended up being, I started as an assistant, but I ended up being part of the lab tech, almost like the assistant office manager, doing the accounting. Like I was working on the QuickBooks, doing paychecks and such by the time, I was doing pretty much anything and everything I could. So at one point, the doctor, we ended up losing our receptionist. We ended up, the lab tech was pregnant or someone that had to take maternity leave or whatnot. So I was the assistant, the receptionist, the accountant, the lab tech. There's like 4 or 5 things I was doing at once, wearing all the hats, and I did it. It was the doctor and me, basically. And then we had a hygienist that came in like 1 day a week. So I just ran the rest of the office, though.
Just like the movie theater, though.
Yeah, exactly.
You made yourself indisposable.
Yeah, I think
you wouldn't have been an easy person to let go of.
Right. Yeah. I think I kind of, in a sense, subconsciously did that, though. You know what I mean? Because that felt like that was my superpower. Yeah. So I can mess up. You can't let me go. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I think subconsciously, like I did that. I mean, unconsciously. Yeah. I looking back now, it sounds about right. Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. It wasn't my plan then. Yeah. It sounds good now. So yeah. And I did work in bartending stuff still at night. So I was still making pretty good money and still able to afford the habits that I chose to afford, partying regularly.
And with the domestic violence charges that come up, did anybody link those to using? Like, I'm wondering, did the courts at this point, have you had anybody say,
you've got a problem,
you need to go to treatment, right? Like, have the courts offered this? Has anything happened like that, or nobody's?
The drug use wasn't as obvious as the drinking. So everybody knew I drank, but everybody around me drank. That was like a social norm. Like if you weren't drinking, you were
legal
weird.
Consequences, nobody's saying, hey, maybe you gotta.
I mean, there was a few people that hinted at it.
Okay.
That just was like, yeah, maybe you slow down on drinking. But and we even joked about it. Like, oh, maybe if I wasn't so drunk, I wouldn't have hit him. Things like that.
Sure.
And that became a norm as well. It became. If it wasn't part of it, and the people I was hanging out with, you got to remember, these are redneck. Oh, yeah. Like this is, there are people that go out. They go out looking for trouble.
Yeah,
but I still don't. I don't feel like you drrank like they did though. I feel like it was different.
I drank a lot more than they did.
That's what I mean.
Oh yeah,
you drank differently than they did.
I'd buy a bottle of Crown and I'd pull the one string out and I'd wear it around as a purse. And I'd carry my bottle with me all night, And I was also the class clown, the one that the chameleon, if I felt like the life or the party wasn't going well enough, I'd go run streaking through the house or something silly just to liven it up or something, just silly things. And, just trying to entertain everybody at all times. And I really look back now, honestly, y'all, I don't know how I did it. I have no idea. The only thing I can figure is I was running so hard for the Lord of Darkness or something that he was giving me some sort of supernatural, like something or something, because I don't, they say that when you because I blacked out a lot. I blacked out a lot. I jokingly say that there's probably a third of my life I don't remember because there's so many holes.
Probably
and I've
not a real joke. That's right.
Right. Yeah. Very, absolutely. Yeah. There's so many things that I'm missing. Like the next day I had to be told about
what you did and said.
Exactly. Or I've woken up in jail.
Yeah.
And just things it's absolutely, or I've seen pictures and I'm like, what? Like that's not me.
Yeah.
Like it's just, it's uncomfortable sometimes thinking about some of the things that I don't even know.
Well, the fact that doesn't make sense to you now is also evidence that, you're a new creation.
Amen.
Right? I mean, it doesn't, how did that even fit into what I know now? It doesn't.
I look back now and I know it was a totally different person for sure. Absolutely. Cause I'm like, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine some of the stuff that I did then doing any of that now. Just even sober, sober doing some of the stuff that I did then. I can't, no.
Well, so your addiction is 25 years long.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Kind of give us because I want to get to the recovery. I'm so excited about the person I'm looking at right now. And just I hear the story, but there's so much positive, presentation in you right now that something wonderful is on the horizon and I want to get there. But summarize the rest of this addiction. How bad does it get and how do you finally get to treatment?
So like I'd say, it was ups and downs constantly for years and years and years and years. And then about 2018, I had met a spiral that I just could not get out of. It got nasty. It got real, real bad. That's when I started, was it 2000? I was 35. I'm somewhere around there. I started using intravenous drugs. So and it got really nasty.
One of those things you probably said you'd never do, right?
I did, specifically because my very first childhood memory, remember when my biological father was in the bathroom using, that's what he was doing. And I always promised I was never going to do that. Well, come around the age of 35, I was with my friends. And I'd preferred cocaine or crack, honestly. I used to, loved it. I was too much loved it. But that wasn't around or it wasn't good enough or whatever. And everybody else was using other stuff. And I was like, you know what?
I'll try.
All right, go ahead. It seems to be the fad now. Go ahead,
Meth.
It was meth and heroin. Okay. or heroin. So I had a friend, say that he would do it. He's like, but if you tell anybody I ever did this, I will deny it. I'm like, I ain't gonna tell anybody. So he stuck me. And then that's kind of sort of where things got real bad. So 2020, I got arrested 5 times for drug charges. So I got lots of charges. I had 13 misdemeanors and 10 felonies or vice versa, something like that, with a couple violent charges in there for between the 5 arrests in 2020. And I was sitting in jail actually on my 35th birthday, now that I think about it. I was actually in jail, in quarantine, because this is when COVID was going on. So they put us in quarantine. You had to sit in these private little cells for 14 days before you're introduced to Gen Pop. So I did that 5 times in 2020. Yeah, actually, no, 4 times, because the one arrest I got in trouble for beating up a girl. They ROR'd me. They released on your own recognizance on site because the girl wasn't going to press charges. So I actually went to jail 4 times in 2020. And I ended up getting sentenced. September 11th was the final arrest of 2020, and I get sentenced. I spend plenty of time there. I get through till February of the next year. I get out, and then I spiral again. It just go on and on and on. So I get arrested again, get out, get arrested again, get out. And it was just like a constant thing that was happening. And at this point, my ups and downs, my ups are not nearly as up as they used to be. Yeah. So, because now I don't have a license, I don't have a job. I
You've got significant consequences.
Right, exactly. So I got all the things. I'm trying to ride an electric bike and just all the things. So finally, when it was 2024, I was on probation for another DUI. And I had gotten caught for falsifying my drug test. So I brought in synthetic urine, and they caught me 2 months before my probation ended. And so I got a warrant for my arrest, and I decided to flee. I was like, well, I'm not going back to jail. Yeah, I'm not doing it again. So I lost my job, I lost my house, and I'm on the run now. And I go to the woods where I have friends in a camp. And
this is the homeless part?
Yes. Well, I'd kind of experienced homelessness before, the car or friends or whatnot, but this is where I was like,
in the woods.
This is like doing it.
You were in a homeless camp.
Yeah. I'm in the camp, where we were stealing electricity and we were not living the best. Yeah. We were all making terrible decisions every day. But I knew I had a warrant, so I was trying to figure out how, and I had a bond of $800. So I was like, or $8,000. So I needed to get $800. So I was like, well, if I can just get $800 together, if I can just work under the table or something, hustle, whatever I got to do, then I'll just bond myself out. I'll just do a loop, and then it wasn't working. But I got a potential job for soliciting for a tree company. And I was trying to prepare the night before to travel to go to this job. And we were getting our water bottles together. We're going to Twice as Ice. And the cops came up while we're there. It's like probably 10 o'clock at night. It's cold. It's March 2024. And I got my trench coat on, my hoodie, my everything. I look like I live in the woods. I look and I smell like I live in the woods. And, the cops come up and they ask us, can we see your IDs? I'm like, well, I don't have mine. I'm glad I didn't, because there's other stuff in my wallet. And I considered telling them a fake name so that they wouldn't run my name, because I knew I had a warrant. And I was with a friend that was on community control. So he's, Like
he's got a lot more.
And so I'm like, man, we're both going to jail. Well, he didn't go to jail, but they did arrest me because they said I was wanted. They put me in the car. And he's like, oh, Amber, don't worry about it. I'll get you out. I was like, don't. Let me figure it out. It'll be all right. For whatever reason, I felt like it was a blessing in disguise. And I kept saying that to myself. I'm like, why am I so calm? Because every other time I've been arrested,
you're throwing a fit.
I'm bucking it. I'm like, I got actually charges of assaulting on Leo for one of the times I was trying to get arrested. And,
would it be fair to say that part of this is you're figuring out you don't like living in the woods?
Yeah. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, and there was just this weird calm, this weird, just like, all right, jail it is. 3 hots and a cot or something, I guess, And I go, and it was awful. Jail was terrible that time. It was, if I could the smells, the people, they were doing a whole new system of isolating the girls because they had just experienced some girls overdosing. So they were hardcore putting us on watch for the first 7 days you're there. And it was bad. When I finally get upstairs after my 7 days, I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do. I'm just kind of lost. But I'm not mad. I'm just like, well, here I am again, and I said I wasn't going to do this anymore. I'm 38 years old. What the heck?
Before we go any further, let's take a minute to address the man or the woman listening to today's episode and wishing for a better life. Or maybe addiction has completely overtaken a family member or a friend.
You are not alone. As you may know, the Jesus Loves Addicts podcast is produced by the Home of Grace, a Christ-centered addiction recovery program in South Mississippi with over 60 years of experience.
The Home of Grace has residential programs ranging from 30 days to 12 months. With 2 separate campuses for men and women, they are fully staffed with caring individuals who want nothing more than to guide you to a life of recovery.
Services include individual and group counseling, marriage and family counseling, classes, workshops, GED, and workforce training, all grounded in biblical principles.
And because of donations from the community, the cost of the program is incredibly affordable.
Thousands of alumni from across the country can tell you there is no other program in the world quite like the Home of Grace.
If you want to start a new path to recovery, don't wait. Speak with an admission specialist today. Visit homeofgrace.org or call 833-55-GRACE to talk with someone.
That's 833-55-GRACE. Call the Home of Grace today.
I get tired of being on my bunk one day, and I decided to go to church with my one friend, Jane, who I didn't know her, but I knew of her from street dealings. And so we go to church. Mind you, again, I'm not usually about this, but I'm like, well, it's getting me out of my bunk. We're sitting there, and the chaplain comes in with these 2 beautiful women that were just like glowing. They just had this like, this angelic glow about them. It was awesome. I was like, I don't know what they have, but I want some of that. I want whatever that is. I want all of that. And come to find out, they were actually from a church that I tried to go to at one point when I was lost, again, trying to figure out a way. That's kind of part of a funny story, but too long for this. And the chaplain's telling us we're going to read John 5. Jane opens her Bible, and we're reading John 5, and she's putting her finger across the text, and it talks about how the man by the pool of Bethesda has been there for 38 years. And I'm like, 38? I look at Jane, I'm like, I'm 38 years old. Like, I felt like this. Oh,
it's interesting.
This incredible feeling. I'm just like, is somebody talking to me? Like, what is, like, I'm just like getting like antsy and just, what is going on? What's happening here? Like, it's weird. We keep reading about it, and I'm remembering people that I've lost at 38 years old. And it gets to the part where he says, do you want to be healed? And at this point, I'm crying. And I'm no newbie to jail. Right. I'm a vet. And so you don't cry, you know.
And you're also no softy emotional.
Right. Yeah. You're so well I'm crying like a little girl, like ugly cry, like snot bubble. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they said, "Do you want to be healed?" And I jump up out of my seat, and I'm like, "Yes, I want to be healed." Wow. And like just this mess, this absolute disaster.
Wow, that's
but
awesome.
I didn't care. I didn't care. I was so excited. And so, then I sat back down. I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm the only one. That's fine. I'll take it. And I just had this, I've never experienced anything like it before in my life, but I had this warmth. I had comparable feelings from substance abuse, you know what I mean? Yeah. Where you just get this rush. But this was like, it wasn't a rush, like a speed rush or anything like that. It was this comfort rush that went through my whole body, and I was just shaking in a good way. And I'm sweating and just crying, and I just, yeah, it's okay, like just an absolute disaster. And then, at the end we did a prayer circle, and my friend Melody and Carrie, the girls from the church and stuff, I'm hugging them. We're not even supposed to be touching these ladies. Nah. I'm holding their hands. I'm trying to get both of them on either side. Like, oh yeah, you're my angels. Like absolute disaster. And I walk out of that church session, and I'm just like, whole new woman.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, all right. Okay. I know the Lord. Yeah. And I go back to my bunk, which I'd already been up for a few days. And I remember laying back down. I kick my feet up, and I put my hands back. And I look up on the top rail, and it says, "Do not fear, for I'm with you." And I'm like, oh, all right. I see you. All right. You've been there the whole time. And I did not even notice until it was the right time. And it's time. It was beautiful. I was like, all right, I'm sold. I'm in. Let's do this. Let's do this.
What next?
So, yeah, absolutely.
And now, is that it? I mean,
that was that experience.
Okay. So yeah. So as often happens, it's a real experience.
Absolutely.
But now the process of sanctification, right? And that can be a rough.
So my mom had already been kind of, because I'm going back to jail, I finally got back in touch with my mother again because we'd had another little hiccup in our relationship due to my addiction. And I talked to her and I said, I think I want to try rehab finally. I think it's time. I think it's all right. And she had mentioned.
Well, so real briefly.
Yeah.
You have this experience in jail. You get out of jail. I'm assuming you go back to the old lifestyle.
No. I was still in jail and I made this decision. I went almost straight from jail to rehab.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you don't go back.
Yeah, no.
Awesome.
No, I knew I couldn't go back.
Okay.
I knew I couldn't go back. So while I was in jail, I was talking to my mom about going through rehab. She mentioned about Matt, my friend, going to Home of Grace. So you remember I live in Melbourne, Florida. That's 9-10 hours from here, 600 some miles. I had a friend that left years prior, and he was actually in communication with me in jail, praying for me this whole time after he found out I was in jail.
That's awesome.
Sending me scripture over the text and everything, over the little tablet that we have. And talking to me about this Home of Grace place, because I was like, well, what's food like? Of course, I found the Lord, but I'm still not sure about rehab. I'm still not sure about.
I've been living in the woods, but I want to know how the food is.
Yeah. I was like, well, now that I'm in jail, I'm actually eating again, and I'm not high. I need to know if there's a menu here, right? So we joked about that and stuff. And my mom's like, I don't even know if you can go. You have to send an application. We got to figure out money. You guys still got to go to court, see how long they're going to keep you there.
You got pending legal.
Right. Yeah. So I'm like, no, the Lord's going to make a way. I know it. I know. I'm going to go knock on that door. I'm going to show up to Home of Grace. I'm going to knock on the door and say, hi, I'm here. Okay. And she's just like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I'm telling you, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. And she's like, all right, if you say so. She's, like, oh, there's Amber again, all right. So, in the most loving way possible, of course, she's just like this kid. So I convinced her to do the application for me over the phone. So she gets the paper, because we can't receive anything in jail. So she gets the paperwork and she's answering questions for me. I'm on the phone with her. She's answering the questions, writing it all down, everything. I go to court and praying on it. I get Allie, actually, to write a letter saying that I was going to be able to go there. So court takes my potential 1 year of sitting in jail and knocks it down to 60 days. Well, I've already been sitting in jail, so I only have 17 days left.
Wow.
Okay.
From court. So I kissed the glass from my public defender, and I kissed the glass, and I'm like, I don't even know what's on this, but I don't care. I don't care. That's fine. And so I sit my 17 days, I get out, and I go to my mom's house.
The easiest 17 days you've done?
It was the longest 17 days, actually, man, because I was so ready, man. I slept with my Bible. I had my Bible. I was sleeping with my Bible. I was reading my Bible. Awesome. I was in there. We were doing the Jericho walk through we navigated that. I was like the Bible girl. So, and there was other ones with me too. I wasn't alone, but there's a few of us there that we would actually have girls pull aside.
What's the Jericho walk? Sorry, just curious.
Where they did the Jericho walk, they did walk around. In the Bible where they walk around Jericho. We did that in jail. So we walk around the whole perimeter of the jail, around the beds and everything.
Tear down the walls that are in. Okay.
Yeah. So we were doing it for prayerfully for certain girls that were struggling with their potential court cases, that were facing losing their kids or going to prison for a long time or things like that. So we would do it in honor of them and representation of hoping that we're believing enough for the Lord to serve them what was just. So, we got in trouble for that too. The officers like beating on the glass. You can't do that. Get away from your bunks. Get away from those bunks. And so we're like, just do it one at a time. Don't do it as a group, So we just one at a time. Just okay. Space. Enough space. Don't let them know. Anyway, so I got out and I went to my mom's house. I did go back for 4 days, but I was under such scrutiny of myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I knew I was going to rehab. I knew I was ready to do something different. Even being at my mom's house was a little triggering with some things because I've been there doing some addiction stuff. And excuse me. And I'm sorry. It was April 27th I got out of jail, and I was at Home of Grace I was in Mississippi on May 1st, and I went to Home of Grace on May 2nd. So there was just a 4-day time span there before I went to rehab.
Yeah.
And then I got to Home of Grace and I dived in. I dove in. I dove in head first.
Wow.
And I tried to eat it up. I had what I call Jesus dates. So I'd be on my patio on Saturday when all the girls are sleeping in. I'd be out there with my Bible or my devotional or my biblical application commentaries. And I'd be trying my best.
You know, it's amazing. You said when you had that experience in jail, I love that you said this because it's just something you said. It wasn't completely foreign to you because you'd had similar experiences with drug use, right? Now, so that might confuse somebody, right? Well, like somebody might just say, well, this is just an emotional experience. But to me, man, it really highlights that Satan creates nothing, but he tries to mimic everything.
Absolutely.
So the drug use, all that stuff was just trying to give you a false sense of what God had waiting for you.
Yeah.
Right? If he can, I always say, you know, we're so quick to accept fool's gold when God is trying to offer us the real thing.
Absolutely.
So I love that description that there was that similarity, but one was real, one was empty.
Yeah, because I do recall on several, more occasions than I could probably count, there is a physiological rush of energy or heat, warmth, feeling, sensation, however people describe it. But there is a feeling that in certain times, at certain points when you're doing recreational drugs and such, that you get a feeling. Yeah. And it was similar. It was the God experience was better. It was unmatched. Yeah. It was definitely unmatched. Yeah. But it's the only thing I could compare it to that somebody might be able to recognize. It was literally a full body, no mistaking, mighty rush of love, of absolute love, of absolute acceptance, of absolute, hey, there you are. Come on.
And just so we don't leave anybody confused, that doesn't happen to everybody, and it doesn't mean your conversion wasn't real, right? We come to God however he wants us to, but for you, that was necessary.
Absolutely. That's what I was going to say, that was necessary.
Because I think partly because had been so just obsessed with that rush because it happened so many times, but it also didn't happen so many times too, because you get to a point when your drug use that you don't get the same experience all the time. You're chasing it. That's, where they have that term, chasing the dragon or whatnot. Like there's plenty of times where I did an, administration of drugs and I'm just like,
sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
What happened? Like, were they fake? Or, and I'm sure some were, but, sometimes I was too exhausted, too dehydrated, done too much already, like my body just didn't have the correct chemical balance to give me the rush I was looking for. So
you've been sober how long now?
2 years this month.
2 years. Amen. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What has been the highest hurdle you've had to in your recovery, right? Because we sometimes think it's just a bed of roses, but it's not. This is
anybody's thinking it is? No, it's not. Oh no. Mind you, it's better. It's way better doing it with the Lord and finding ways to have him heal you. Yeah. So where you can do life better. And even those rocky patches and such, like you can still find comfort or a lesson or growth in it. So, what the biggest hurdle is. So I don't know. I've experienced no matter what, at the end of the day, even the hurdles I've experienced, I think a lot of them are way better than the experiences I'd put myself through
amen.
previously.
That's good.
In my BC.Amber life, all the time. I would take this any day, all day. I would take my worst day 100 times better than my worst day there once, But I think probably finding my identity was probably still one of my biggest hurdles, because I don't think I've uncovered all of it. I don't think I've fully grasped, or I still think I struggle sometimes with believing that I know he loves me. I know I'm his daughter. I know I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I know all the verses and all that, but every now and then this knowledge doesn't compute to this knowledge. So I have days where
we battle.
I got to put on that armor, and I'm going out. I'm like, hey, listen here.
That's great. Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like I lose those battles. Mind you, I don't lose in the sense of relapse or anything like that, but I feel like I feel defeated on some days that I haven't fully uncovered just how great his purpose and plans are for me.
And I want to say though, when you're a chameleon and you're used to being the class clown and getting the attention any which way, it is a superpower to see someone able to be vulnerable and say, sometimes I feel defeated, but I keep going.
Oh, absolutely.
Because no one was going to see that.
Yeah. Right. No, absolutely.
There was
100%.
no vulnerability allowed, but without hesitation, you're like, yeah, look, I battle and sometimes I fail.
Yeah, absolutely. I do.
But it's
plenty
still,
of times.
all the time.
Yeah.
But it's still so much better.
Yeah. I wouldn't take it back for the world.
I also love that you committed and submitted to a process. And so you stayed there for a year, but you went further.
Yes,
so
I did.
Tell me a little bit about that before we have to go.
So I went through, I did home grace rehab. I did the phases. I got up to the internship and I did that for a little while. And I left there and thinking that I'd been in addiction and all the wrong choices for 25 plus years, whatever. I knew 1 year of rehab wasn't going to fix me. So I felt that I still needed some help. And I went to Sue's Home. And Sue's Home's a faith-based women's transitional facility. And I lived there for a year. And in a way, even my counselor there said it was kind of a step back from where I was at Home of Grace, because there you don't drive yourself. You're forced to get a job. I say forced. I'm sorry. That sounds terrible. You are forced. Yes, you are forced in the sense of, yes, it's part of the program. You're required to have a job because you pay rent. You know, you're more, they're trying to help you learn how to live and live right. You know, because so many of us go there
don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
Don't know how to do that at all. So I did that. There's some struggles there. There's definitely some struggles there because not being able to drive was just I had like a gypsy spirit where I just did whatever I wanted whenever I wanted for a long time. And then sometimes if I couldn't run, it felt like I was trapped. I was like jailed again. Like I literally lived in a home, a beautiful home with wonderful people. And I felt like I was in jail again sometimes. I was just like, ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh, I don't know what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
Is this the right choice, you know? And I got a job. I was actually a surgical assistant for a periodontist while I was in the program. And that was tore up some roots in my heart there too, because I didn't work I wasn't sober. I hadn't had a job sober. And if I had a hard day after work, I would go home and I'd have a beer or I'd have a line while I was at work or something. So not having a crutch like that and learning to go home and learning to rely on the Lord for my needs, going to him. Like I remember being at work and struggling about a patient or a doctor or something. And I'd walk into the lab and I'm like, Lord, I don't know where you're at right now, but I feel like I'm alone and I know you're not abandoning me. I know you won't forsake me. So I need you here. And then like one of my songs would come on the K-Love, because I always turn K-Love on the operatories. And so there was a lot of growth that came from that. And I just actually left there in this past December. So I left the day after Christmas to move out to my own. I live in Gaucher. And as I left there, they actually hired me on to be an external housing case manager. There we go. Yeah. It's always a tongue twister for me, for the nonprofit that runs Sue's Home. So, awesome. All the things that I got to experience, all the blessings I got while I was learning how to live sober and following the Lord, I now get to help other people do. So,
isn't that awesome? Yeah. So you progressed from being a resident, but you stayed connected to give back, right?
Yeah, so I don't live there anymore. Now I work there. So I moved from my room's there to now I have an office there.
Yeah.
So I still live there sort of part-time, but yeah.
That's
absolutely.
Amazing. Yeah. That's awesome.
So I still get to interact with the girls and stuff, which is really cool too. So.
Now you get to go home and and learn and see, and what that's like is also a whole new season.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, in this last 5 minutes, I think there are probably 10 things that we could do a whole episode on. One thing you just said there, though, that I loved, you said, I have to learn to rely on the Lord, right?
Yeah.
Without having that beer to come home to or whatever. But the reverse of that, the insight to that, and sometimes I think people resist this insight, is that, so you'll often hear skeptics say, oh, God's just a crutch. Amen to that. What does a crutch, right? What does a crutch do?
I love it.
It helps you heal. Exactly. It's a crutch that works.
Right.
But so the insight is, why do I have to learn to rely on God? because what I've learned thus far is to rely on drugs, sex, whatever it was, right? All these things. So it's not like I'm coming from some great independent place and now I need a crutch. My crutch was not working prior. Now I have one that does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So it's just, I loved that.
Yeah.
Catherine taught me this slogan. She said it here, and I've abused this thing since.
Okay.
And that's choose your hard, right?
Yeah.
And so I love how you described, when I said, what's your highest hurdle? And you looked at the camera even to tell people, hey, what's coming is hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
But so was addiction.
Oh, gosh, I know it.
Right?
Yeah,
The difference is that addiction is a hard that gets harder. Recovery is a hard that gets better.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
I won't say less hard, but it gets better.
No. And with addiction too, you don't see a progress. You see a degress. With living for the Lord and living sober and whatnot, you get to see growth. You get to experience progress and the redemption and the restoration. Woo! Yeah. Let me tell you about the restoration. That's we got a whole nother episode for that.
Yeah. Amen.
So
Just
absolutely.
the healing, that on its own.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And being able to not feel lost all the time, because you wake up, you're looking for one thing. You're constantly, when in addiction, you wake up with one thing on your brain and the drug's your God. So, and we already serving a God. If you're living in addiction, why not just serve this God? Why not live for him?
And learning how to grieve.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
And doing some forgiveness.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because that's very much a part of it.
Absolutely.
And we don't splinter.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well done.
Oof, Amber, thank you so much for being here.
Thank
I
you.
really enjoyed
a privilege. Thank you.
just kind of being able to peer into where you're at now. Such spiritual growth, such spiritual maturity in your walk and all that stuff.
This has been great.
Yeah. And I want to combine two things that came up in your story, and I'm going to do it very briefly to sort of just wrap this up. But two things that cropped up in Amber's story is getting to a place of being sick and tired of being sick and tired. And the difference in crying out for help indirectly versus directly. And so what I really want to say to you, this simply, we have a God that can handle your pain. Not only can he wants to.
Yeah.
It's why he did what he did. He's saying, give it to me. If you're at a place where you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you don't need to disguise your cry for help, right? If you're cutting yourself because you're hoping somebody sees, if you're living in a blackout because you hope somebody will understand that you've strayed too, ask directly. Find somebody. I guarantee you there's somebody in your orbit. And if not, go knock on a church door, do something and ask for it directly. I need help. And by the way, say it to him directly, right? It's okay to fall on your knees and say, Lord, I need help. And then follow up. Ask directly. He wants you to. You don't need to hide it. Guys, we love you. More importantly, Jesus loves you. And we'll see you next time on Jesus Loves Addicts.